a minute. They have to see it 4 or 5 times and then they get started. But they tend to, and I'm even the ones that are blowing it up and bringing in people fast, what they're doing is they're bringing people in, they're making all these different promises because they're saying whatever the person needs to hear. And we really feel like you have to keep it real, keep it honest, tell people exactly the truth. You have to work your business. So we need to figure out, is it advertising that we should be doing? Is it what kind of words we should be saying to people? Because folks are looking for things. You have folks joining a lot of different things. I was listening to one of the people in our business said a friend of hers joined another company in January, made no money, and now she's joining her with our company. But what caused her to join that company and take, 4 months to realize that you're not making any money? You should have came over to Surge in the first place. So it's like, what is it? What are people looking for? What should we be doing to advertise our business better? And then when you get into the no assertion, well, then now how do you play with that? What do you do to get folks wanting to hear what we have to say? And is it where every Thursday we give a piece of knowledge, of education, something that they're learning? Is it too long? I mean, there's so many things that we need to answer, because if you think about it, we have been doing this the same way for a long time. And so it's like, do we tap into a younger generation and find out what they're doing? Well, we know that they're doing 18 seconds or 1 minute, 2 minutes on these different social media platforms to get people's attention. And I also saw something that's called Volure. And they're saying now you can cruise for free, sign up and be a travel advisor. And they pop up on my social media. And the way those cookies work, those algorithms, once you watch one thing, it keeps showing it to you over and over. So we want to be able to get creative and find something that we can do, that we can hit the masses. I know on the different social media platforms, it'll tell you, pick a picture and let them pick your song. And then you go, you get a picture, and they put this raunchy song with your picture. I don't particularly continue with it because it's not a song that I want to be social, whatever with this song. I want my words to be decent words. I don't want what's hot and heavy right now, because they're not words that I even use in my vocabulary. So why should I put a song with a picture of mine to get more followers? So there are so many different things that they're doing, but there has to be ideas in our heads that we can come up with to literally explode our business, because there's a lot of people looking for what we have. And so the key is, how do we expose it to where our feed is popping up several times on their platforms because they've clicked on it or they looked at it, 1 second too long, and it'll keep continuing to show that. So just throwing that out there. I know we have a lot of thoughts on it, a lot of different ideas, because we should just be using the tools that we have. And even when we have somebody, Rick was talking about somebody who came into our business and their response to Thursday night meeting, oh, well, I already seen the presentation. Well, and I don't have a guess. So they felt that, so why should I jump on it again? But letting people learn that the more you learn, the more you earn. So even though you might see the presentation, what you need to do is you need to jump on these different presentations and treat it like it's, travel education 101. Because even if you're already in and you've been in for years, if you start looking at the presentation like you're going to share it, like you're going to learn it, then you will be seeing it with different eyes. So you'll be looking at it with different understanding because you want to be able to share it with other folks. You want to be able to watch the presentation enough times to where you can literally recite every slide. I think if we take that approach, and then of course the 3-minute elevator spiel or conversation that they say you should have, we should take the approach, because I really don't want to, and I won't, start making promises that we know, unless you are willing to work that hard in your business, that's the only way it's going to happen. Because you start making empty promises to folks and they sign up, well, in 2 months or less, they're going to drop out because they haven't seen the different things that you said you were going to do to make it happen. So we want to make sure that we stay grounded, stay positive, and stay knowledgeable, of course, with our business. But even myself, I don't know the slides, every slide, every word that's on every slide. So we want to make a commitment. If anybody has any ideas, what would be some great direction to go to make that happen? How do we generate a following, pretty much, where every time people see something that's going on with Surge365, they jump on and they listen? Because last night they canceled the training that they do on Wednesday about the compensation plan, and it was okay, but did you feel disappointed? I mean, did you say, oh man, what am I going to do now? And so we want to make sure we get people to that point. So I don't know if it's something that we need to do to make the presentation shorter. I don't know. So what we're doing is we're just throwing the conversation out there. I know if you ask the different questions, 18 minutes, 18 minutes is this extension, because everybody gets bored real fast. They're not listening. Their mind is wandering. Something's going on. And that's because of watching television now and watching the brilliant lights and the brilliance of social media. Everything is fast. Everything is quick. You get an abundance of information in seconds. And that's how people are absorbing things. So as we move more into the future, are we having to get things quicker? So Rick, I see you unmuted. Did you want to share?
Yeah, I definitely did. And this came up this morning as an idea or as an inspiration. And it was very, very interesting. And it's amazing how God does stuff, because God uses things that are already present and then kind of illuminates and makes you aware. But I have some questions, and I'm going to just ask some questions here, not looking for an answer immediately, but to frame the inspiration.
Well, what you can do too is you might not be looking for an answer immediately, but if anybody has any immediate suggestions,
No,
you
no,
want them.
hey, I'm going to be asking for that afterwards. I mean, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's the purpose of this call today. But here are the questions based on what you kind of started with. And you had mentioned, Brenda, that the question, what are people looking for? And this all has to do with, as a team, branding, as Glenn had mentioned, and identifying an identity for the team. An identity that empowers each and every person, every member of the team. as something that they are empowered to speak on, to talk about. Right now, we lack power. And I believe it's because, you know, when David tried to put on Saul's armor, you know, he couldn't fight in Saul's armor. What is the armor of our team in Surge 365 that will empower every single individual that's part of our team? And a lot of times, most times, a tribe is built because you have like-minded people, like-minded spirit, like-mindedness. And I know we have a team that is like-minded. Our team has a spiritual slant to it. Our team has a spiritual foundation, a spiritual base, and we here are in Surge 365. A lot of times we try to describe to other people Surge 365, and we describe it in a way that it's not a passion, except you're talking travel. But even if a person doesn't travel, that's not really what is the passion that is a consistent thread across our team? But anyhow, so I've got some questions. So the questions are, who are we targeting in our business by our team? Who is our audience? What is our story? Every single person that's listening to me right now, what is your story and what is your experience? Life experience, your life story. As a team, what is our superpower, or even based on that story, what is your life experience or your superpower that comes from that story, or as was mentioned earlier, that testimony? How can we attract people to the business of Surge 365? What knowledge do we have that people want to know? What knowledge do we have that people, hey, I want to know that. I need to know. Where? How do I get that information? What are the needs in society of the people? What are the true needs of people right now? What are the true needs of people right now? What can we talk from a passion, from an anointing, from a calling? You know, what can we talk? You know, whenever you're stumbling, you're not talking from the passion. If you're telling a story and it's your life story, if it's your testimony, there's a difference in how you can actually speak that, present that. That's different than you just talking, you know, how do I work Surge 365? What is Surge 365? You know, what are the travel products of Surge 365? You know, so what is that passion that you can speak that people will listen to because it's coming from a place of an anointing? What can you teach others? You know, what do you have that you can actually teach others? Where they will say, I needed to know that. I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier, and one of these days I'm going to talk about pie. And if a person doesn't know pie, they don't understand how organizations, business, and everything works for real. Pie, personal, is performance, is the P in pie. The I in pie is image. The E in pie is exposure. The secret to success in anything you do, organization, business, everything, is understanding pie. The P pie is performance, 10%. Everything that you do, performance is only 10%. You got to do it because, you know, we have been taught that action, performance, doing it is 100%. You know, the person that works the hardest gets, you know, it's only 10%. Image, how you look in doing what you do, is 30%. Got to look the part to get the part. Exposure, who you know that can move you into different places and positions and open doors, is 60%. Performance is 10%. Image is 30%. we have been taught that performance is the 60%. No, people get laid off because they think it's just performance. No, I can bring anybody in to do the 10%. So, but those are knowledges that people don't, this person in, that people don't know, that every conversation, if I bring that up, nobody knows. And it's like, what? I need a sponsor? Which is in our business, Surge365, in marketplace ministry, what are the knowledges that empower people to the best that we understand? What are the knowledges that are needed to empower people? The inspiration that came this morning, it has been there for quite some time, has been to integrate some of those marketplace ministry components into what we're doing, into the conversation, to the point where when I was in New Orleans, I spoke to pastors of the city of New Orleans and city leaders from the newly elected mayor's office that were appointed to work with those pastors. And the most important thing they need to understand was marketplace ministry and how the community is empowered through marketplace ministry that connects to the city, that empowers and focuses and unifies the faith-based community with the city, And I was like, wow, that is a hand-in-hand handshake connection. And I started thinking about pastors, the pastors that I was working with, and the spiritually understanding people, aware people that I was working with. Me personally, and that conversation shifted into Surge365 in particular, and how we use Surge365 within marketplace ministry, where the vortex is fundraising. Pastors give out that link to their congregation. The congregation gives it out to the world. Money is saved. Up to 60% is saved. 100% of what's saved comes back to the owner of the vortex, whether it be that person, whether it be that church. And they were like, what? I started telling them about the members program with the concierge service. And they said, whoa. I said, yes, the members program, wholesale travel, the church staff can use this members program. Put up to four people, and rotate those names through. As the church members, as the church staff is traveling to different conventions, different things, getting training seminars, put the name in, get the lowest rate on the hotel, car. When they come back, rotate those names through the next person traveling. And they're like, really? The travel agency, Travemanity. How when that church holds their next convention, as a travel agent, call in that venue, hotel, I need to block 100 rooms, 200 rooms, 1,000 rooms, whatever the case may be. And getting the commission with that Travemanity, opening up opportunities and careers in hospitality and tourism. When I was speaking this to the pastors in New Orleans, I had them on the edge of their seat. And I was speaking it from the passion like I'm talking to you now. And they were responding from that same passion. That is my superpower. That is where I'm most comfortable in sharing Surge365. And so in that, this morning, the Lord was just really bringing to me, there is a target audience out there that needs that. His people specifically, that can explode what we're doing, as opposed to working it with just travel more, save more, make more. What is that why? Do we want, and this is where it comes down to, do we want to brand? Do we want, not that I don't like brand, do we want an identity? Do we want to create an identity that will attract spiritually aware people, will attract pastors? They come to me anyway. I'm working with them anyway, but there's a separation of pure Surge 365 and ministry, marketplace ministry. Should the question that I was posing and wanted to run by the leadership team, this is a leadership call, should we be walking in that purpose on purpose? And here's the other thing, and a lot of folks don't understand nor know this. And Better World Changers is the marketplace ministry component that the Lord gave me that said, Rick, I want marketplace ministry excellence, where a person understands the spiritual authority that they walking in purpose, on purpose. They understand why they're here, what they are to do while they're here, right? So they can walk in a confidence. A lot of people in church, there's still people in their life don't have that. As a teaching a person, how do you identify your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you even on this call? What are you doing in life? And as a foundation. So in Better World Changers, we help our people identify the purpose to walk in spiritual authority. Secondly, actually, it's the third thing I'm going to mention is second, understanding the marketplace. What's the vision that God has shown you of what he's going to do for you in the marketplace? What is he going to do? Rick, I saw it. I'm going to be successful. He's going to do this. When you understand that, we say, write it down. You're now walking marketplace authority. Because nothing that comes at you, this is the picture that you see. You got spiritual authority, you got marketplace authority. And then the third thing was on the marketplace ministry side, the 7 mountains of cultural influence, 7 mountains that influence our culture. And being able to use a business tool to help in that journey. My business tool, our business tool specifically, is Surge 365. Father, bless this tool, Surge 365, to create wealth that will free me up to walk in this journey of the 7 mountains. And so that has been my experience. I've made millions through that testimony. The Lord bless this business. And that particular was the legacy company. Bless this business. Send me business leaders, men and women that can help do what I can't do. And I prayed that. And the Lord sent the folks. And we created millions, and I overrode that we still walk in today. So he showed me how. 7 mountains. Whatever that business tool, allowing God to bless it, to free you up. Personal freedom, community building, global missions. Free to be mobile, to go wherever he tells you to go because you're walking in purpose. So that's the ministry piece. Every single pastor loved that. Every single spiritually aware person loved that. That alone empowered them to work the business side of Surge 365, which is the goteamget.com. 2 websites, betterworldchangers.com for marketplace ministry, goteamget.com to understand at the PhD level what Surge 365 Humanity is. And to understand every aspect, there's a tab for the Vortex. There's a tab for the members program. There's a tab for the Humanity careers and opportunities in hospitality and tourism. There's a tab for compensation, Surge 365 compensation. Each of these tabs can be studied to understand with an excellence the business side. Bringing those two together. And this is what the Lord has shown me a long time ago, but I didn't really do it. Creates an identity that empowers and feeds a starving market that's out there. that needs to understand, you know. And so every single person and the folks that are attracted to our team, the leaders here, we all have that background. You guys understood everything I just said, right? And so this morning, that's why I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. This morning, you know, the Lord kind of brought it to me in a whole nother way of who are you, what is your identity? You're working in Saul's armor. And I started thinking about different folks who work in the business. And Brenda mentioned that assertion, attraction. We have a natural appeal of attraction when we are working in our strengths. So I'm gonna stop right there. Anybody have any comments on that in terms of identity, in terms of your experience, your superpower, you know, what you feel comfortable in sharing? Now, before you answer, I wanted to make sure we're not we're not getting churchy. You know, and that's the line that, you know, or is it the line? I want people to talk to that. I want to open this up to hear your thoughts. You know, are we getting churchy? Should we be church? I want an identity. What should our identity be? We have the flexibility. And Brenda had mentioned this. Obviously, the identity that we have is not growing. Anything that's not growing is dying. What is the identity that we can take on that will spur and accelerate growth? Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Anybody?
From my experience, good morning, leaders. It has to be a natural flow for you. It can't be I'm putting on somebody else's armor. I'm looking like someone else. So when I do come before people, I'm all nervous, I'm jittery because that's not naturally who I am.
That's good.
So it has to be authentically you. I'm authentically able to go and sit down and say hello to a person every day, anywhere. Okay. The community, when the community knows you, they know you by name, you're making an impact. Okay, so what I see personally, and I see when I'm in my strength, I see when we're in our strength. A lot of it to me is consistency. They have to see you out and about. If you're sharing something about your business today, but you only share it one time and then you only share it once that month, that's not going to get it. Because people are like, are you open? Are you not open? So the consistency for me pays every time. I see that with Glenn also when we're out connecting with people, whether it is over the social media, but it is a real life relationship connection. And everybody in our team came that way. Everybody, even the family members, they all came by relationship according to their vision that they want to experience here, not my vision. Because we ask these questions straight at the beginning. Why are you here? Why did you choose this company? We never sugarcoat it. We never tell lies. We don't do that. We tell it's going, if you want to build a career here, it is going to take some work. And you have to carve out the time for that. Now, if you're not willing to do that, perhaps this is not for you. But if you tell me it is, okay, let's sit down and put together a strategy so that you can hit your target mark and earn some checks here, because I hope we came here not just to have fun, but also our back, it will always be healthy, wealthy generations to put away for what is and what is coming. Back to you, Rick and Brenda.
That's excellent. Anybody else? What should be our identity if we had an identity as a team? And is identity based on common shared experience? If in a whole nother world, if I had, you know, my way in a whole nother world, and actually this is my world, not everybody here, but the world that I have, Brenda and and like you're saying, Chantel, when I go out and I'm sharing the business, I'm not just telling, the conversation a lot of times, most times, does not start with travel. It starts with something more relational, more personal, maybe even more community, spiritual, marketplace ministry. You know, should we and can we use that in our invitations to learning something? Invitations to the call, to the presentation, and talking to people where if I'm talking to a person and I say, okay, are you familiar with marketplace ministry? Okay, we're part of the Surge365. I use travel as a tool that frees me up to do what my calling is. What's my calling? Okay, my purpose, walking in my purpose. Walk, YTB Surge365 has created wealth that frees me up to be mobile, to go anywhere I need to go, to do whatever I need to do in the community. Personal freedom, community building, global missions, spread the gospel. Is that a story? Can that be an identity for a particular type of folks that we may want to attract as an audience? Those are the people that are attracted. There's no assertion, there's only attraction. The purpose of what I'm sharing with everybody right now is, what can we do if we identify a particular audience, and we're all familiar with the church folks and the pastors. If that's the audience we want to attract, there's a great need right now, and there's a great need even for the people on this call to understand walking in purpose on purpose, to walk in your spiritual authority, to understand the marketplace vision that God has shown you, to keep a journal, to track what God is doing, to understand that Surge365 is a tool that allows you to do what God has called you to do. That's a message. In the perfect world, for me having my way in the things that I'm doing, and I actually do that in my world, is getting that message across. Are you walking in purpose on purpose? Do you understand that Surge is a tool that allows you to do what you've been called to do? Now, it may not be that we use Surge to pass that message, but me as a pastor, as a marketplace pastor, as a marketplace minister, in my passion of passions, I can speak to that. And when I talk Surge outside of that, it's a little flat. We like to travel. Yeah, we have fun. We save money. We write it off on our taxes. We get paid to go. But that's not attracting people. The purpose of what I'm presenting before you is as an identity. Is there a market out there? Is there an audience out there that we can put together a message that, even without pulling them, attracts them? Even without yanking them, where a pastor says, I want to learn about fundraising with the Vortex. Where a community builder says, or a leader says, I want to hear more about hospitality and tourism and career opportunities. I want to attract those folks, where a person that travels all the time, where a church that's going to convention to convention, to event says, I want that members program because it's going to save us a lot of money so I can lower the bottom line and make the board happy. I want to personally put together and craft the conversation. The presentation doesn't change. Brittany asked the question earlier, is it too long? Nothing is too long if it's interesting. They can hold the interest and the person wants to learn something. They will hear it. Can we add that conversation? Should we add that conversation? Who is our target audience? What is the identity? Collectively, it is individually, that's my identity. And that's why I'm successful in business. But collectively, is that an identity we want to teach, share, attract to? Anyway, your thoughts. Can you see yourself? Can you see yourself if we say, okay, here's an identity Most of the times we have a conversation is talking about community, just talking about church. Can
Hey,
you
Rick.
see? Go ahead.
Hey, I think it's what we all come together and agree with, and that's the kind of the mantra of our company. We're a company of hope, messengers of hope. We're hope dealers. Um, Anybody I believe that's attracted to this opportunity has to have that seed in them. I mean, you can't step into this genre. You can't step into this arena and suffer the blows that it comes with this heart to fight back and swing back with all your might and keep going no matter what. You can't have that without, that hope in you, that vision that no matter what, it's gonna happen. It's already happened in my mind. I'm just waiting to get to it. And you take the steps to get to it. It's like you got a treasure map, and treasure map tells you to go here and there and this and that and go through this and go through that and stand on this and get under that, and you're gonna get dirty, you're gonna get cut up, you're gonna get bruised, but you're gonna make it. As long as you keep putting one foot for the other and you follow the map. You might have to carve out some new routes or however it goes, but you got the destination in front of you and you keep going. And that's hope. A lot of people say, or I hear a lot of, hope is a wish and wishes, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, hope is real. A wish is manufactured. If you look at the history of wishes, you need someone else to grant it. Hope is all you. If you have hope, it doesn't come to pass. Well, it's because you quit. You didn't figure it out. There's always a way. There's always a way to figure it out. It might not be the original way you started off with, but there's always a way if you keep forging your way through. You're a pioneer, so you're going the path that no one else has gone, and probably no one else in your family has gone. I know in mine, no one's taken this path. There's no one here to tell me that other than on this team. There's no one in my personal family to tell me do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. It's kind of like I'm forging a new path here that someone else is going to have to follow. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go through it. But I only go through it just so those who come behind me have an easier way, a more direct way, a quicker way. And if that's the way it has to be, and that's the way it has to be. But I'm a trailblazer, and so is everybody on this phone call. We're hope dealers. That's not easy. That's far from easy. But you've been called to do it. So what do? You put your backpack on, you get to hiking, and you enjoy the scenery as you go. You learn as you go. You keep growing, and you never forget why you started the journey, and you never forget where you're going at the end. Otherwise, you get lost. And that, thank God for this team, like-minded people to keep you focused and, keep your drive going, keep your fire going. And you're going to make it. It's inevitable. You're going to make it.
So that's a question. Should we be, and responsible may not be the right word, should we be responsible, using it as a word, for the personal development for the people that are in the business, knowing the things that lead you to be successful in this business and motivated in life and in this business? And should we focus on, or not focus on, but should we include that as part of a special package, or should we keep it separate? The things that make people successful in life and in this business is what Ed is saying, as hope dealers, but it's on the spiritual side that usually in business you stay away from, and people fail because the spiritual side is what drives the business. And when I say the spiritual side, looking for a significant selling point that attracts Like what you're saying, Ed, helps us to sustain, to persevere. But something that is a significant selling point that attracts, like if you mention marketplace ministry, the ears perk up in every conversation. If you mention walking, understanding your purpose in life, the ears perk up in every conversation. If you mention the fact that you can teach people how to do that, people will show up. If you mention marketplace, what is your marketplace vision? And understanding that you actually, in our conversations, creating that out of reality, you're walking it out. Ears perk up. So we avoid the things that really help people to be successful in the business and persevere and go through. That's all on the spiritual side. Should that be, and can that be, an attraction for a specific group of people, audience of people that are out there that are failing, that are flopping left and right? They're getting beat up in life. They're getting distracted by things because they're not in purpose on purpose. Should that be part of something that we can actually provide, because we all can teach it? Everybody on this call walks it out, teaches it, but keeps it separate. And that's the thing that allows people to be successful in the business. Can that be an identity that we have as a team, that as that word gets out, pastors show up, spiritually Christians show up that are trying to go to the next level, walking in purpose on purpose, understanding marketplace authority, even at some point understanding that the business is only a tool that allows me to do what God has called me to do, to walk in purpose on purpose, to have mobility, to go from Colorado to Charleston and not skip a beat. This is my testimony that I'm sharing with you guys of what God has done for real, that Brenda and I are walking. And by the way, we travel the world. But should that be, not a but should that be our message, our identity that attracts a people, that a group, an audience that's flailing out there, that shows up to a traditional, Surge365 business presentation with an excitement, but because they don't understand that they're dealers of hope. They don't have that perseverance in them. They don't understand that this is a tool that I can use to be freed up to do what God has called me to do. Should that be part of our message? Like, that already is part of my message. I'm talking about as an attraction point that separates us as a team from every other team. We already know, Lynn talks about it all the time. We know things and do things that other teams have no idea, don't even attempt to try to do. Should that be more significantly our identity as a team? Anyway, your thoughts?
For me personally, I would say no. And the reason I say no is because of the question Brenda asked at the beginning. Why do some people show up? Why don't we have 100 people here? Is that if that's your identity, you easily flow in it. Okay. If that's not, you're very nervous and you will not open your mouth. So if we put this over here, are you then going to take this tool and put it out there as that, or are you going to be pushed back and say, I really don't want to do that? But if that's naturally who you are, like, we can go anywhere. I don't lead with anything. I'm walking down the street yesterday and this lady comes up on to me and she says, I'm supposed to talk to you today. I don't know this lady. I've never seen this lady. She said, there's something you have that I'm supposed to get today. I'm just looking at her. I don't know her. Whatever is in you, it's going to shine. If you're friendly, people will relate to that. But to put that as the lead, for me, if you're willing, I'll say this. If you're willing to do the work for that, because it's going to be some work. I'm telling you what we've experienced and what we have lived. the doors we walked in and still are walking in, that is work. Whether you call it work or not, whether it's a identity, there is still some activities that you're going to have to be consistently doing. I can tell you, I watch Glenn with some of the pastors in our team. It takes time and effort, and to get the belief into them takes effort. Are you willing to be that person? And we love the people, and that's why he's putting the time, because he knows what this person's vision is. He knows the struggles of this person, even at these high levels, and he knows the projects that they need to complete. But that is work. Back to you, Ray.
Here's the question. Here's the question. I hear what you're saying. Here's the question. Is there an audience of Christians in particular out there that are looking and lost? That, like the lady came to you, there's an audience of people that need to know, like the lady that came to you, let's say she's looking for purpose and hearing the fact that, yes, you have a purpose and you're walking in purpose. And you need to know what that is so that you can be motivated in life, to live your best life. And when you find out that you need to do that, you need to have a business tool, whether it's travel or something, that will free you up to walk in that purpose. Is there an audience? I believe there is an audience of Christians out there that are missing that link, that are missing that critical piece of knowledge, that have no means of creating wealth. In fact, they don't even understand that they need to be walking in their purpose. That's the audience I'm looking at. For those Christians, in particular, are people that want to look at and become Christians, whatever. But those Christians that are out there that don't know, those people, there's an audience of those people. And when I was in New Orleans, even those pastors, when I mentioned marketplace ministry, they were like, "What? Man, I need more information. Rick, you need to teach this." And that's what I'm looking at. Like the person that came to you, Chantel, there's a whole bunch of other people out there. So as an identity, those are the people that come to the presentation. As an identity, not that we're talking anything at the presentation other than conversation of, of market. We may mention marketplace ministry, walking in purpose on purpose in a conversation. The presentation stays the same, but to attract those folks in particular for the growth of what we're doing, so that they can even be in the game, in position to learn something new, in position to know that, yes, you need a tool that's going to free you up to walk in your purpose. Even if we're not teaching purpose, but you need a tool to be freed up from that job to do what you have as a passion to do. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, and not being a pastor, but attracting. What can we use to attract people? Aside from, and really it came down to looking at what the top leaders in our company use to attract people, knowing that that's not something that I am going to be doing, nor can I do. And so in looking and understanding, I'm not making 100 calls a day. I'm not doing a lot of forceful things. I'm looking at what I can do to attract people. Currently, I'm talking to people. Would you like to travel more, save more, make more, save on your taxes? Those kinds of things. But should we be adding in there the marketplace, walking in purpose on purpose? Will that attract? I would love, here's the bottom line. I would love to see our call full of pastors and Christians in particular. Of course, it's not just limited to Christians that want to know and want to understand that this is a tool that I can use, to build my community. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just been my personal experience. And see, that's why I want to make sure that I don't just put my personal experience on everyone, because I'm going to do it. And that's why Brenda and I are successful. And so we're just actually teaching something that has made us successful. But I don't want to push that on the team, but I want the team to be successful. And right now, as I see in the team, they're not understanding the connection of walking in purpose. They're not understanding that Surge 365 is a tool that frees you up to walk in your purpose once you know what that is, to walk in the vision that God has given you. And in life, that is a missing ingredient in people. And so I'm looking at, for me personally, this is a tool that I use to teach people what's holding you up in life. Like the lady that came to you, Chantel, what she needs to know is you're walking in purpose on purpose. She needs to know is, what is the vision that God, the question to her, what is the vision that God has shown you what he's going to do? He's going to do that. What business tool do you have that can free you up to get out of the dilemma that you're in? We're using travel. Does that make sense? Any comments or thoughts on that? But
Hey, Rick,
let's go right ahead.
it's not really a question of a yes or no. Um, Real bottom line is, what are you called to do? What have you been set apart, chosen? What have you been groomed for? And we've all been brought together with this tool, Surge 365, YTB, amazing tool that can do a lot for a lot of across the board community causes, ministries, churches, organizations, all of that. I love the flexibility in that and how we can use that tool, especially the way this team's vision has accepted that. There are challenges. I don't care what you do. Um, it boils down to what are you? What is your passion, your calling, your vision? You have to also look at, and it's kind of hard to do a 1 hour call or whatever. You have to pray on these things. It takes time for clarity, and of course, you step out on faith. Anytime anybody says that the Lord told me or I was given this, who am I to say that that's not so? So I never doubt on that. Now, what is my portion of that?
Right.
I love the inclusion. I love what we do with the churches, with the organizations, and direction is heading.
Is that an
Um,
attraction? That's the question. Who is the target? And see, I think that's probably the biggest thing with you're saying. Who is that target market, if you will, that we can best satisfy that's out there? And what is that message that we would want to get to them based on our personal experience? Yeah, who is that target market? See, a lot of times if you just are general, you're not going to generally get anything. But there's a whole market that's waiting for something, that's ripe for something. And I don't know if it's not just a Christian market, it's not just the pastors and the churches, but we have a message. What is our message and who is the target market that we want to use to grow our team, our business, the Surge 365, not just our team, that we can actually give them something of substance in addition, not just the business, because the business alone is not doing it. Even with people that are in the company, the business alone is not doing it. And so the question I'm actually asking, and you're right, it's a matter of prayer,
Rick,
You know,
let me ask you this. Are you talking about a niche, or are you talking about this is the global expansion team is going to be a marketplace ministry, period?
no,
I mean,
no, those two separate
where
things. But it
is
is
this
a
a
niche.
separate thing? Because I know with our messenger groups, it all got separated out because things were getting mixed in with the business, with the spiritual.
Now,
Is it?
should they be? That's a question.
That's the question.
I mean, how much? Okay, so that's exactly on. So a person we know, especially if they're spiritually based, they have a limitation for whatever reason, working the business alone, keeping their faith separate. Now, why is that? I don't know. Natural means, natural causes. Does it need to have spiritual overlay? So, yeah.
You know what? Just to answer Glenn, remember we separated it back in the day because we had some people that were not,
That's true.
whatever, believers. And so
They
they were
were
offended.
adamant.
And so that's when we said, okay, well, we don't want to. And it was just a few people. It wasn't the majority. It was just a few people. And so that's when we decided, okay, let's keep it separated. And then, of course, remember back in the day when coach, so people were praying before presentations. So they said we can't pray before a presentation anymore. And so all those little things came together, and then we decided to separate it. And if you think about it, every award ceremony that you watch, everyone who wins anything, the first thing they say is, I want to thank God. I want to thank my mom, my dad. The first thing they do is they thank God. So, what I think as we continue to roll this out with conversation and growing, we have to decide how much of that we're going to put. Because if you're saying calling base or you're saying ministry or whatever, we have to figure out what our niche will be, because we will attract more people for religious beliefs and wanting to build their church. Their passion is to help a foundation so the vortex can allow them to build something to take care of this organization that they're focused on, or this organization. So yeah, it's a really interesting question, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, a person goes nowhere unless they understand their purpose. Is it our I won't say responsibility, that's probably not, that's a strong word. Is it our thing to let them know that you need to understand your purpose, or to allow them to flounder? Like, people in the business are floundering because they're not understanding that it's not just the business. There's a whole nother thing, a layer that goes along with that to understand. And that's on the spiritual side. Now, is that something, like I heard you say, Chantel, is that something we want to take on? Um, that is the market. I mean, you need to understand your purpose. Amway used to do that, in teaching people how to dream and purpose. And that's where a lot of the Zig Ziglar kind of came in, and all the different motivational speakers and the things that they talked about. Who was the guy that they used to come, Glenn and Chantel, to Seattle? The guy, the money man, that talked about money and the power of money. Oh man, what was his name? But he's one that got me going
Talking
too.
about Bob Proctor?
Yeah.
No.
Well, no. There was
No,
another guy that was.
he's talking about Jenny and Jenny's father.
Oh yeah, Dr. Increase.
Yeah, yeah.
But see,
We
he
bought all
teaches
his
that
tapes, right?
that is what he leads with. That is his market. Okay. That's all he stands on. Period. He doesn't shift. Like for us, I'm not doing ministry. I am ministry. I don't have to go and put a tag on my head to say I'm ministry. I'm a servant of the Lord. I don't have to do that. And if the conversation comes up as I'm listening to a person, like the lady yesterday, as she kept talking and I was listening, she says, I'm looking for something. She says, I just left this company. I'm looking for something. And boom, okay? Didn't get heavy with her or any of that. She said, I would love to have another conversation with you. All I was doing was listening. I didn't put a sign on my head. I didn't track her down. But just naturally being you, everybody in here is not going to take this on. Okay? That's just from what we see in the history, what we have, the question has been answered. Okay,
Well,
because your actions that you take is what you're leading with.
I was thinking about not everybody, but is it something that we should, because people don't know, like we understand and we know, somebody else may not understand that's a leader. So this is also in training our leaders that aren't getting that information to know. That's going to set whatever standard, because a lot of people don't have the experience that we have. Should we be training up our leaders in that? They're not going to naturally get that because that's not information you get out there. So as building a foundation, that's not just natural information, but even like in training our leaders without going deep, because we're not a church, but even just understanding purpose so that our leaders can actually say something to a person, to help them in life, because it has nothing to do with the business. It has just everything to do with life, that, walking in purpose on purpose. That's not just natural information. And you don't even hear any of that kind of talk out there. I mean, people just don't talk about it. But that's one of the questions. And of course, we can't answer that call, the whole thing right now on this call. But that's one of the things is, like everything you're saying, Chantel, you have been brought to a level of maturity to understand that. People don't get that, period. They don't even know. Should we teach our leaders? Because the understanding that you have when the lady even comes to you, to not even, talk about this, talk about that, but to listen to her. Should we be training our leaders in something in that area on the spiritual side so that they can understand the true things that make this business work, that help people in life to be successful? That as an attraction for people to say, hey, I want to learn, I want to know, how can I not only help myself, but help others to be successful in life? Is that beyond us and going too much? That's one of the questions I have.
Yeah, Rick, and we talked about before, because you asked the question, and because up to this point, we've always just given out whoever came along, and more people in Surge are coming and wanting to know about marketplace ministry and how you do this and how you do that. So the question came up and said, hey, this needs to be protected. So we had that conversation about copyright, the whole concept. Of course, we can't copyright the Surge, but the presentation and the model definitely. So to what extent do you want to, beyond doing that, how far do you want to go as far as
Okay,
branding yourself
so okay,
as
that's a good point.
that team, which is going to be pros and cons?
Okay, that's where this came from when you gave me that advice in that counsel on that. I'm getting a lot of people that are totally interested in marketplace ministry. And that's what I'm wondering if, and now that you mention it, that's probably where this all kind of came from too, is the people that are contacting me wanting the things that we do as a team naturally. Like what you did when that lady came to you, Chantel, that's actually something that people should know. And can you teach that? Is that just spiritual maturity? But that's what's happening with me. People are contacting me about the marketplace ministry side. And these are people that are in Surge. These are Christians. These are people, And I'm wondering is,
But this is business too. And I'm going to tell you what, you do business with Christians and you'll see the other side.
well, I'm not
Also,
saying from that perspective. I'm just saying as a need, and is it something that we can use as a not just a badge of honor, but as a niche? Because everybody on our team is familiar with, to some level of degree, marketplace ministry, if you want to put a title on it, but in personal development that way. Is that personal development that way something we want to use as a significant selling point as an identity? You know, which is the missing link for most teams and most people in business. Do we want, I don't know that, I just wanted to put that out there for this call, and to get everybody thinking and looking at who are we, who is our audience, what is our story and experience, what is our superpower, like Ed mentioned, hope dealers. How can we attract people to grow and to motivate the folks within our business? What knowledges do we have that people want to know? That's what you were getting at, with people wanting to know more and more about marketplace ministry and how we use the vortex and all that. What are the needs out there of the people right now? And how do we connect that to what we have as a group and collective? What can we talk about in a passion? Like, I can talk to everybody on this call and pull out something that they know as a passion, and they'll be like, they won't stop. What is that? And then what can we teach others if that's something that we want to do? And you bring up a good point, Chantel. What do we need to teach our leaders that they don't know, that we have learned through life experience, maturity, whatever, that we can teach and pass on to our leaders as a legacy? So just wanted to put that out there for people to think about. What is the identity of our team? Should we craft and make that? Should we just allow it to be like every other team in Surge? Should we combine any self-development, personal development in there that can help benefit our team, not just in life, or not just in business, but in life? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for everybody to pray about. We'll talk about it again.
Rick, as you were saying that, this was coming across my mind. I'm even wondering if we could have a separate ministry Zoom, so that people who are in ministry, that's in the business, or those that are coming, because when you get pastors in some of these conversations, somebody just had mentioned that because they were talking to the person and they didn't like the building part of the presentation that night. But if you're sitting with ministers and ministries, and we have catered that conversation to who's in the room, to me, that would be a nice add-on per se, a separate from this right here. And that's a whole nother, but I'm just thinking kind of along those lines also. Back to you.
Here's something a good point. Here's something that I've experienced, is that when people understand this is a business tool, they don't as much get offended with us talking about money as much. You know what I mean? So when they put the business in the context, okay, this is a business tool that I can use and I can pick and choose, that lays the context for the presentation, that they see it through that perspective, as opposed to, oh yeah, this is network marketing, okay, focused on the money. But they see it in a different light, has been my experience with people that understand, okay, no, this is a tool that I can use to create wealth. And even as a pastor, I mean, because when I was in New Orleans and I was talking it from that perspective, they looked past network marketing, and they saw it as a tool that they can use, a vortex for fundraising, a members program for, saving on their travel, and the travel agency side as a career opportunity. So their whole perspective of the business changed, and the presentation, it totally changed. So where it wasn't offensive per se, but now they saw it as a business tool that they could slice and dice however they need it. So should it be a separate? It could be, but I think with the understanding of purpose and like they say, like what's the boy used to say, you know, once value is understood, price is not an issue. You know, once they understand what this is as a tool, I don't know. It's just something for us I wanted to introduce it, you know, we'll continue as is, and then we'll have this conversation and see, you know, it may just be a thought, you know, that we don't implement anything. This is not just implement, it's just an understanding, you know, to give everybody on this call even a foundation, and looking for motivation for growth, and knowing that there's a body of people out there, there's a need out there, you know, like we talk about AI, you know, there's a need of people who are going to be laid off. There's a need for people who need to understand, to walk in purpose, and they're going in circles because they don't understand their purpose. That's what I'm looking at, the target audience, and being able to actually meet a need of a target audience to take these people to a whole nother level. And oh, by the way, we have Surge365 as a business tool to help you get there, to fund your independence while you're on that journey. See, that's been my testimony, Brenda, my testimony. Back to you, Brenda.
Well, we'll talk more about that, because you know, when you start saying, getting in there and then say, oh, by the way, I don't like that, but
No, that was just for us.
Yeah. So I want to be upfront and
No,
straightforward.
that was just for us here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Well, we will do the presentation this evening, correct?
Yes.
And what I think we should start doing now today is start advertising it. I mean, how many times do you remind your team or even people that follow you that we're going to have a presentation on Thursday? So that's a good thing too, just to put something out there on social media or on your page and invite people. You can even go to the group page, cut and paste, and throw it on your social media. So it's about just being open, and we're here. We want to help you grow. We got great ideas. You should join us. Check us out this evening. And I think if we start doing more advertising towards that, you'll see people will start showing up. You have people in your team that probably forgot the phone number or the Zoom. So just put it out there and just see what happens. Get creative on inviting people and just see how people will respond. So I think that's it, right?
Yep. Unless somebody have anything else?
Did anybody else want to share? Well, let's get our thinking caps on, because you know we are the thinking caps, because we are the most trusted team in Surge365. We are winners. Everybody trusts our team because we are honest and we are not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And that right there will lead people to want to join our team. So everyone, I want you to have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you all on the presentation this evening. And I think that's it. All righty. Bye-bye now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.